What do you do when your closest friends refuse to accept the person you love, even after they've changed? I'm engaged, hiding it, and completely torn between lifelong friendships and my future husband. My boyfriend and I started out as really good friends. Like actual friends, not the kind where there's some underlying romantic tension or flirty energy. We got along effortlessly. We'd hang out late into the night talking about everything from our favorite music to our worst fears, and I genuinely believed we had that rare kind of platonic connection that wasn't complicated by attraction. So when he confessed his feelings to me, I was completely blindsided. I remember just blinking at him, trying to figure out if he was joking. He wasn't. And, to be fair, he wasn't pushy or aggressive about it. He just said that over time his feelings for me had shifted, and he wanted to be honest about it. He told me I didn't need to say anything right away and that our friendship mattered to him, no matter what. It was one of those moments where everything tilts slightly, like the camera angle of your life changes, and suddenly the same picture looks different. Naturally, I turned to the people I always turn to, my best friends. We've been a group since high school, practically inseparable. We've seen each other through breakups, career changes, family drama, everything. These are the women I trust more than anyone. So I told them what had happened, and I asked them what they thought. They were all against it, firmly. No hesitation. One of them said, "He's just trying to ruin your friendship." Another chimed in, "It's classic. Guys pretend to be friends until they finally make a move." They made it sound like some strategic betrayal rather than a vulnerable confession. I remember sitting there trying to reconcile the man I knew with the villain they were describing. Still, at that moment, I let their opinions shape mine. I didn't agree with everything they said, but I guess I didn't trust my own instincts enough yet. So I stayed quiet, processed on my own, and gave myself time. And after a couple of weeks, I realized something. I actually wanted to give this a shot. He never disrespected me. I was attracted to him, and I loved being around him. The idea of something deeper with him didn't scare me. It intrigued me. So I said yes. We started dating. A few weeks in, we slept together. It felt natural and honestly kind of beautiful, like two people who already knew each other emotionally finally connecting physically. I was excited to share that part of my life with my friends, the way I always had. But their reaction shattered me. They SL*T shamed me. And not in a vague, subtle way either. One said, "Wow, that didn't take long." Another asked, "You think he respects you now that he's gotten what he wanted?" And the last one just gave me this disappointed look and said, "You're smarter than this." I was stunned, completely frozen in place. I had expected teasing maybe or questions, but not that. I tried to explain that it wasn't some impulsive mistake, that I wanted this, that I felt safe with him, that I was happy. But their words hit hard. They made me question everything, not just my decision, but my own judgment. I defended myself the best I could, but eventually I just let it go. They kept insisting they were just looking out for me, that they'd seen too many women get used by guys who played the long game only to disappear once they got what they wanted. And the truth is, they have been through some pretty rough stuff. So part of me tried to be understanding, like maybe they were projecting their trauma, not trying to hurt me directly. But that didn't make it any easier to swallow. I kept thinking, isn't it possible that this could be different? That my experience doesn't have to end in disaster just because theirs did. But I felt guilty even thinking that. Like I was betraying them by not seeing what they saw. Or worse, like they didn't believe I could make healthy choices without their approval. It honestly felt like they hated him from the start, not based on anything he said or did to them personally, but just from the fact that he dared to fall for me. If I planned anything, dinner, a game night, even just a walk in the park, and mentioned he'd be there, the group chat would suddenly go quiet. Someone would have a last-minute conflict. Another would say they weren't feeling great. It didn't take long for me to see the pattern. They didn't want to be around him. They made no effort. They never sat down with him, never asked questions, never gave him the courtesy of a single honest conversation. It hurt, not just for him but for me, because these women were my chosen family. And yet, every time I brought him into the picture, someone I cared about deeply, it was like they treated me like I was doing something wrong. Like I was embarrassing myself. Things got tense, quietly, but constantly. There was this invisible thread of judgment running through every interaction. And eventually, I broke up with him. Not because he was abusive, not because he was unkind or cruel, but because something happened between us that scared me. I won't go into detail because part of me still fears that someone I know might come across this. But it wasn't some explosive betrayal. It was just a moment that made me question everything, including myself. After the breakup, The "I told you so" energy came flooding in. Nobody said those exact words, but it was all over their faces. Their tone. The smug comfort in their voices. Suddenly, they welcomed me back like I had just returned from some stormy island where they warned me not to vacation. And for the sake of peace, I let them. I slipped back into the friendship, smiled when they poked at old wounds, pretended to agree when they brought him up like he was some bad dream. But the truth is, I never forgot how they treated me during that time. I didn't forget how unsupported I felt, how quickly they stripped away my ability to make my own decisions. How they acted like I was some naive little girl being led around by a man they didn't even know. I carried that bitterness quietly, kept it in my back pocket, pretending things had gone back to normal. Fast forward nearly 2 years. Out of nowhere, he reached out. It wasn't dramatic or full of expectations, just a simple message saying he hoped I was doing well, that he was sorry for everything that had happened, that he had spent a lot of time reflecting on his behavior and trying to become a better man. And this is what stuck with me. He said he understood why my friends hated him. He didn't defend who he was back then. He owned it. So we started talking again. Just casually. Just two people with a shared past catching up. And it felt easy. Like slipping into a warm sweater you forgot you loved. The friendship we'd had before all the mess, all the drama, was still there, buried but intact. Feelings returned. Quickly. Maybe too quickly. But I didn't fight them. Because this version of him, the one I was talking to now, he was kinder, more patient, more thoughtful. He listened. He never pushed. He never brought up the past unless I wanted to. And I saw in him a growth that wasn't performative, it was real.
So, yes.
We started dating again. But this time, we kept it secret. I couldn't bear to go through it all again. The judgment, the cold shoulders, the "we just care about you" lectures wrapped in condescension. I didn't want to defend him every time I smiled at a message. I didn't want to ask for their permission to be happy. And the thing is, I've never been happier. We're both more emotionally mature now. He treats me with so much gentleness and respect, and he's been my rock even when I doubted myself. He gives me space when I need it, and he's never once made me feel like I owe him for giving our relationship a second chance. Lately, I've been spending more time with him and admittedly less with my friends. Not out of spite. Not out of some grand statement, but because it's exhausting, genuinely exhausting, to hide such a huge part of my life from people who are supposed to know me better than anyone. It's like every time I see them, I have to put on a version of myself that only lives in the past. I have to measure my words carefully, steer around any topic that might even hint at him. Imagine being in love, so happy and so at peace, and having to pretend like that part of your life doesn't even exist around the people you used to call your family. Meanwhile, his friends know. My family knows. Even his family knows. We're not hiding. We're building something, slowly, intentionally, honestly. And that's the part that stings the most. The people who barely know me have shown more support and openness than the women I've stood beside for over a decade. And now we're engaged. He proposed a few weeks ago. Nothing flashy or Instagram perfect, just the two of us, laughing, sitting on the balcony with the city lights in the distance. It was quiet, personal, and completely us. I said yes, without a single ounce of hesitation. There was no doubt in my heart, no voice telling me to pause or think twice. And then the reality hit me. I couldn't even share the happiest moment of my life with the people I always imagined would be the first to hear it. There was no group call, no pop of champagne, no "tell us everything" from the other side of the couch. Instead, there was silence, and dread, and a sinking feeling that the people I once called my sisters might not celebrate this with me at all. I want to tell them. I really do. Not to shove it in their faces, not to prove a point, but because it still hurts that I've had to compartmentalize my joy. That I've had to edit my life down to what feels acceptable in their eyes. But I also dread it. I dread the passive aggressiveness, the judgmental looks, the sighs that say, "we warned you." I dread the subtle distancing, or worse, the outright rejection. And I know that might sound dramatic, but if you'd lived through how they treated me before, how quickly they turned cold, you'd understand why that fear feels so real. My fiancé, bless him, doesn't push. He doesn't understand why they're still holding on to the past, but he never makes it about him. He just wants me to do what feels right for me. And I love him more for that. He's shown me a kind of patience and emotional safety that I didn't even know I needed until he gave it to me. But I feel stuck. Torn really. Between wanting to share my happiness with the people who knew me in high school, who held my hand through heartbreaks and family drama, and realizing they might no longer be the people I can lean on. Maybe I've outgrown them. Maybe they never truly supported me to begin with, they just liked me more when I followed their lead. I keep asking myself, what's the point of a friendship if it can't grow with you? If it only survives under the condition that you stay exactly who you were 5 years ago? Part of me wants to invite them to the wedding. Part of me doesn't even want them to know about it until it's over. And that feels wrong. Or maybe it just feels unfamiliar, because I've always prioritized making others feel comfortable, even at the cost of my own peace.
So here I am.
At a crossroads. Do I keep pretending, smiling, nodding along just to keep the peace? Or do I finally live my life out loud, even if it means losing people who were once everything to me? I don't have the answer. I'm hoping someone reading this might. Have you been through something like this, where the people who were supposed to cheer you on became the ones you had to tiptoe around? If you had to choose between keeping the peace or being completely honest about your life, what did you do? I don't want to lose them, but I don't want to lose myself either. I'm in this confusing crossroads right now. After being with my boyfriend for 2 years and weathering the ups and downs of a long-distance relationship, he proposed to me in the most perfect, quiet moment, and I absolutely said yes because I know he's the one. Yet when he did, I couldn't even celebrate it with my own best friends, the ones I've trusted with my deepest worries and secrets for a decade, because I know they'd never accept him even though he's grown into the kind, caring, respectful partner they once warned me against. It's like I finally allowed myself to fall in love fully, to trust again, and to plan a future that feels safe and joyful and true. But the people who used to be by my side are now unwilling to stand next to me, and I suddenly feel frozen between two worlds. I want to share my engagement, my excitement, my future, but I dread their judgment, their eye rolls, the casual digs or silent dismissals because they never bothered to get to know him, only to judge him in whispers and insist he was bad.
News.
I resent that I've had to hide this happiness, tiptoe around invitations to meet them, downplay him, silence myself to avoid provoking their disdain, and it hurts to think they might never be part of this milestone. Part of me thinks maybe I've outgrown them, or maybe they never truly saw me beyond the image they liked, while another part still hopes they'll come around, that pride or fear will fade as they see how wonderful our relationship has become, how genuinely he makes me happier and stronger. But if they won't give us a chance now, do I even want them in our wedding, in the memories we're building? Yet I fear a wedding without them will feel hollow, and keeping it secret until after the fact feels like betrayal, so I'm torn. My fiancé says he wants me to do what's best for me, that I shouldn't shrink or hide, but I'm terrified of being judged or abandoned, of having to choose between the people I've loved for years and the person I'm building a life with. I don't want to start my marriage already hiding from parts of my past. I don't want to lose my friends, but I also can't keep denying who I am and what I've chosen for fear of losing them. I've never felt more alone in my joy, struggling to find permission to be happy, to share that happiness openly, and so I'm turning here because I need help. How do I navigate this? Has anyone else been in a position where their closest friends refuse to grow with them, and how do you balance wanting to include them with protecting your own peace and your future? Should I invite them anyway and risk tension, or leave them off the guest list to protect our day? Do I tell them now or wait until later? And how do I reconcile the guilt I feel for both wanting them with me and being afraid of what might happen if I open this door? I'm desperate for perspectives or experiences from anyone who's felt this kind of divide between who they were and who they're becoming, because right now I don't know how to bridge that gap without losing something I've held sacred, too.